So how are you both?
Oh, good, thank you.
Good. How are you finding lockdown? How's your work going?
All right,
Oh, yeah. We were Fiona and I were just saying, when you're used to working on your own, it's not much difference. You just get in your room, get your head down, and get on with it.
That's probably the best attitude to have. So we're talking about pandemonium. So I'll start with Gail. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing?
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in writing, but a few years ago, I was teaching for 20 years, and I was investing all my creative energies into my lessons and working with children, and it suddenly struck me that they were all moving on and I was standing still. So I decided to invest some time in short stories initially, and then I went on to write novels. So it's all about channeling your creativity, I think.
Yeah. Did you always want to write a children's book specifically, or is that something that happened randomly?
I mean, I never thought about it really. I was teaching at the University of South Wales, so I was teaching this course on writing for children, and we were doing a session on anthropomorphism, which is where animals take on human characteristics, and this makes it easier for children to experience danger vicariously through the characters that they're reading about. And we were just looking at some examples of that, and then the students started chatting about these cute red pandas, that live in China. And I just thought, I'd never heard of a red panda before then. And then I thought, and that was the spark of an idea. If you can have a red panda, why not a purple panda?
Yeah.
So it kind of wasn't on my radar at all. And then I got this idea, and then, then you have to kind of follow it, really, don't you?
Yeah, like a light bulb moment, an epiphany you can't ignore.
Mm.
And Fiona, what about you? I know we did the same master's course in publishing at Derby. Did you always want to do illustrations? I know you've got your art behind you, so have you always been interested in art and illustrations?
Yes, my mom often tells the story that I've been drawing before I could even talk. I always did it, and I think it just came naturally that I decided to go this way professionally as well. And I started illustration before, and then I did the course of publishing. Yeah.
Wow. So Gail, you've just mentioned where the idea came from for you. How did the idea come about between both of you? How did the images and the text happen? Was the image first and then the text, or how did you work together to create the story?
Well, I'd written out the story and I'd entered it into sort of some competitions and got some feedback on it, but I was too busy working on my novel, The String Games. So here's the copy of my novel, The String Games. And fortunately, Fiona was the cover designer for this novel. So I already had experience of Fiona's work.
Yeah.
And she's a great person to work with. So it's been fantastic working in collaboration with her on Pandemonium. So we had the story down on paper, but of course it changed quite a lot throughout the collaboration because the story needed to change to fit the pictures needed to change. I mean, it was actually a huge piece of work. I don't know about you, Fiona, but it took far more time than I thought it was going to. And I learned so much from working with Fiona about the process of illustration. So, I mean, it was a wonderful thing to be engaged with.
Yeah.
I would say the same. It was very collaborative. So, yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you worked well together then. There was no, just for a bit of gossip for anyone watching, there was no arguments, no big disagreements or anything.
No, not at all.
That's good. Smooth running. So what was the writing process like for you, Gail? I know you've shown us The String Games, which is quite literary fiction, isn't it? And poetry before. Was sitting down to write a children's book, which is obviously a lot less words than a full novel, was that
I know.
different?
In fact, I mean, I think it's that there are really so few words in Pandemonium. I mean, the joy of a picture book for children is that the words tell one story and the pictures tell a more nuanced sort of parallel story. So children are reading the pictures as much as they're reading the words. But in terms of writing for children, it's about choosing those words really carefully because there's few of them, so they have to work hard. And in writing for children, it's about choosing the words that have a sort of pattern to them, choosing the words that are not talking down to children. I mean, there is some quite complex vocabulary in Pandemonium.
Yeah.
Take the title, for example.
Yeah.
So it's not about watering things down for children. It's about choosing the right words that will extend their vocabulary. I think pandemonium is a lovely word to say. So it's fun words that are fun to say. You feel them on your tongue like kind of jewels on your tongue. So it's having the sort of patterned language, the interesting vocabulary, and the repetition, which is quite important as well. So children can begin to join in with those repeated lines and begin to build up their early literacy skills. So although I was saying to my husband today, he was saying, oh, it must be easy to write a children's picture book, but you'd be surprised how complex it actually is.
Yeah. Was it harder to write than the string games, or was it a little bit easier?
I think with the string games, a novel is such an endurance test because it's such a long piece of work and so many words. So it wasn't kind of the same kind of endurance task in that, you know, a novel takes. I mean, the string games took 5 years to write. So this actually took less time, but it was still intense, very intense.
Yeah. What about you, Fiona? You've illustrated I'm a Dilla from Gaza, which is Victorina Press's other children's book. Was it a similar process for you to work on that one? Did the images kind of come out in the same way?
I mean, in some way it was similar, especially like working on it, like coming up with like ideas, thumbnails, and then talking with the author. But I think this time with Gail, it was really collaborative. Like she had so many ideas which she wanted, and we talked, and it was like a really long back and forth, which was really exciting. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it both. Did being far away from each other, Fiona, you're in Austria, did that hinder the collaborative process at all, or did you just utilize Zoom to its full potential?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm used to it, and I don't see a problem with it at all. Like we Skyped it out, and it was through email, and even though like I work for some clients in Austria as well, and it's also happening via email, like I don't meet up with them, so it doesn't really make a huge difference if you're in Austria and writing emails, or if the other person is in the UK and you're writing emails. So yeah.
In fact, Fiona, I think we were ahead of the lockdown game in a way,
weren't
we? Because everything had to happen, you know, via Skype. We used Skype principally, didn't we?
Yeah.
And for some of the time, I was in Uganda, so I was volunteering in Uganda. So we Skyped from Uganda to Austria. So it's amazing. Even in the most remote locations, you can still have contact and work collaboratively.
Yeah. So you were ahead of all of us. You were, when lockdown hit, you were all like, oh, this is not a problem at all. We're used to this. Fiona, I really love the illustrations in Pandemonium. You've really captured kind of like the texture of the book, the panda, and its fur. What materials did you use to do that? How did you create it?
Well, one of my images just dropped in. Those are actually the backgrounds of the book. So it started traditionally. So I did pencil sketches, which I sent to Gail for feedback, and we talked about it. And when I started when I started the coloring process, I started with the watercolor backgrounds, like you see them here, and then I scanned them, and the pandas themselves, those were done digitally. So I have like those watercolor brushes, which are specifically for Photoshop, and to get this texture. And of course, you have to put on a few layers to get like a really nice texture.
Yeah. It really comes across as well. The images look really good. What was the hardest image to create? I don't know if you've got the book with you. I haven't got a copy with me, but which was the hardest image for you to create?
I think I could speak for even both of us, for Gail and I think it was this one.
Yeah.
Because in this one it's Peter swinging through with a bra, and in the beginning it was like, should it be like a catapult, like it was really like fast, and then we came up with the idea to have it more like a swing. And obviously this is nothing very common, so I haven't painted this before. So it was quite a challenge, but I think it turned out well. It's actually now one of my favorite images.
I was just going to say that was my next question for both of you. Which one's your favorite page in the book? Which one's your favorite image?
Then the next one. This is my favorite.
Yeah, I also when we were working on the bra. Oh, I can't get it in focus here, just so everybody can have a good look at it. We had to change the background a lot. This was the most intensive piece of work, wasn't it? The bra scene. And people who fed back to me said, "Oh, it's a laugh out loud moment when they're reading the book." You know, so it
pays
really
off.
well. Yeah.
So this is a question for you, Gail, because Pandemonium has quite a strong message of celebrating our differences and being true to yourself and celebrating what makes us unique. Did you always want your children's book to have quite a strong message, or did that come as you were writing?
I think it came as I was writing, but I did want a strong theme to the book. So it was there always as part of the process of writing it, but it became clearer as we went along, really.
Yeah. So do you have, both of you or Fiona, whoever wants to take this on, did you have any inspirations for your work? Has anyone influenced you with how you worked on it?
Well, in generally, I have a lot of artists which I look up to, which even if it's not on purpose, influence my work. So, for example, Glenn Keane is one of them. He was a Disney animator and he does his own shorts now. And I really like the fluidity in his work, and you have really movement there, obviously, because he's an animator as well. So I think I picked up on this a bit in the book, where Peter is moving and flying almost through the air. Yeah.
Swinging on a bra.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Gail, is there anything, following on from the last question I asked you, is there anything that you would like parents or children to take away from the book when they've read it? Is there anything that you hoped they would take away from it?
Well, I think it's all the things that we've already mentioned about being yourself, valuing your individuality. Teachers that have read the book, we've had quite loads of fantastic reviews. I don't know if you've seen them, Fiona, but lots of them are saying how brilliant the illustrations are. But also teachers are saying, oh, I wish I'd had this book when I was teaching infants, because it's a good way about teaching about diversity and inclusion. So that's really important to the book. And one of the teachers commented that it's a really accessible way for young children to begin to understand about difference. So very positive.
It's a really
feedback.
important message to kind of talk to children about, and it's not always the easiest conversation to have, is it? So if a book like Pandemonium starts the conversation, then I suppose you're doing good. What was your favourite book as a child?
Well, in terms of picture books, my favourite picture book was Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak.
Yeah.
So I love that feeling. I remember as a child being sort of half scared to death by this story and absolutely thrilled by it as well, So that's a really strong memory I have from being read to as a child. What
about you, Fiona? Do you have a favourite book from childhood?
I do. Mine is obviously a German one. It's called... I could translate it to The Three Sisters and the Knight with the Blue Beard, and it's just such a lovely book. And I don't know if I should give away the ending, but it's so nice that it's also about people being themselves, and those little sisters are up to an adventure, and it's just a lovely book, and I adored the ending. My mom had to read it to me again and again in the evening. She was like, we have read it so many times. And it was just once more.
Oh, that's a true classic. When a children's book's read to death, that's when you know it's the good one. What are you both working on at the minute? Have you been working on anything through lockdown, or just trying to get by?
I'm working on a new novel, so that's sort of taking shape. Yeah, and I always, because for me, lockdown came when I just came back from volunteering in Uganda with VSO. And I decided when I came back, I didn't want to be this really driven writer, you know, who has all these targets and has to meet them.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to approach things in a more kind of relaxed or less driven way. And actually, when I came back, I thought I was going to do loads of writing when I was in Uganda, but I actually didn't do anything because the experience there was so intense. I was working with refugee families from South Sudan. And when I came back, to sort of get me back into writing again, I wrote a lot of stories about being in lockdown. So I wrote stories about what it would be like for a pencil in a pencil case to be in lockdown, and what it would be like for a tool in a toolbox to be in lockdown. And that sort of worked me back into it again. And several of those little stories were published. And then I sort of got this idea for this new novel, and I started working on that.
I'll be excited to see that one. What about you, Fiona? Are you working on any cover designs, any more illustrations?
Yes, I'm actually working for another cover for Victorina Press. Soon to come out. And I'm also, as you can see here, teaching drawing for children, which is online at the moment, but it's still a blast. It's still really fun. Yeah.
Oh, so you've taken a different kind of route with art as well, a teaching route with it.
Yeah, like I'm doing a few different things, and one of them, I think I started it last year, is teaching, and I really enjoy it. It's a nice balance to like commissions, and obviously I'm doing my own art as well, like just drawing. Actually, in the summer, I worked on an animated short for just myself. So it's really nice to like also give back, and it's so much fun when the children are really happy with the artwork. So.
Yeah, I bet that's quite rewarding as well. So just as the final question, I know Sophie, when she's done interviews with authors, asks this to everybody, and our motto is Bibliodiversity. So what does that mean to you?
Well, I'll start because sort of when I came across this term, I sort of did a little bit of reading into it, and what I understand about it is that it's the promotion of small presses to create a healthy sort of publishing environment. You need those small presses because otherwise it would just be completely dominated by the big five. And small presses are very good at picking out unheard voices that would be overlooked because perhaps they're not as commercial as the big publishers would want. So it's giving opportunities to writers who have unheard voices and a different range of voices that celebrate diversity.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. What about you, Fiona? What does bibliodiversity mean for you and your work?
Yeah, I would say the same, and especially for Victorina Press. I was very grateful that Consuela took a chance on me because I also just graduated, and the same she does with the authors, like picking people which she thinks have talent and stories to tell, and also like taking risks with authors who are like first time they just bring out the first book. And yeah, I think it's really great. Diversity, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Get that one into end on. Yeah, that's a brilliant note to end on. Well, thank you very much for talking to me about Pandemonium, and that's actually available now, isn't it? Waterstones, Amazon, which we don't like to talk about as a small press, and on our website as well. And there is
what maybe you should say, go to the website. Go to the press website, because it's much better for all of us if we can promote that bookshop. You know, I think actually that's one of the advantages of lockdown in a way, that people are shopping more online, and to come directly to the publisher is a good thing. Although, you know, there is a good profile on Waterstones too, isn't there? We've actually had, I think there are 4 reviews on Waterstones at the moment for Pandemonium. So that's
really, yeah. We've got some more reviews coming in as well, so hopefully that will sway people to realise what an amazing book it is. And Christmas is coming up as well, so hopefully we'll see Pandemonium under a lot of Christmas trees this year.
That'd be nice.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me.